Apple is betting big that its sleek new iPhone 17 lineup, AirPods Pro 3 and Apple Watch upgrades will spark a powerful upgrade cycle, expand its premium pricing and lock more users into its ecosystem. For more, let's head to Florida. We're joined by Brad Gastworth from Circular Technology. Brad, what did you make of the event?
Yeah, Aaron, it was a little bit uneventful, to lack of better words. There really wasn't a huge surprise. The iPhone Air was sort of expected for some time now, and the Pro Max and Pro, you get a better camera, but outside of that, the functionality is basically the same. You have a little bit better internal components, but it was underwhelming. I would say very underwhelming, especially the way that they promoted it. I would have thought they might have had something better to say.
Is Apple just simply out of ideas? It was said to me by someone who I was watching with this morning, overnight Australia time, why are they bothering with events?
Well, I mean, I think they need to continue this cadence of once a year with their product upgrades. So I don't think you'll see a stop on the events. I think they could do, they've been such a marketing genius in the past. I think they could do a better job, letting people know if this really is going to be something inspiring. I mean, the stock took a hit on the event as soon as it was announced. You saw that stock come down. I do think in the future, especially even next year, I'm expecting a brand new, completely new form factor iPhone. So, we don't even have the 17 yet, but I am calling, a 2018 the iPhone 18 to be a completely new form factor. I'm expecting it to be an all-screen flip like we've seen that's happened with Huawei and the others, and I do expect that to come to market next year.
And they're about 8 years behind, and I feel like last year I was interviewing someone who said that they were expecting it this year, and the year before they were expecting it that year, the idea of this phone. On the Apple website right now, the iPhone 17 is described by Apple's marketing gurus as even more delightful, even more durable. Are they just sitting on thesaurus and coming up with different words that mean the same every single year? It's kind of like going to the gym and making a huge announcement every time you've gone to the gym that you've lost half a kilo. No one cares. Is the iPhone cycle now in this point where people are just, why bother? Why even watch the events?
Yeah, Aaron, I mean, these are all really good points. I think they're trying to spur demand, right? I mean, they're going to say whatever they can to get more people excited on this new refresh. I mean, the one thing to note, though, I mean, the one thing we can really point to is now you have you have more than one offering at a higher price point for the iPhone with the iPhone Air and now matching the Pro and Pro Max models. That's really good for margins because I do expect that to be a good seller out of this group, and that would boost margins. But yeah, you're right. I mean, they've been a marketing powerhouse. They've been incredibly creative with words, and that's helped them build such an amazing install base. But ultimately, this iPhone is not that exciting when you look at launches and compare it to other brands out there. But Apple enthusiasts and Apple iPhone owners are going to continue to upgrade to newer iPhones, and you have a big install base that hasn't upgraded. So an upgraded to the iPhone 17 will actually get a bigger services refresh as well, and that's just high margin business for Apple.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's about margins. We were talking about it from a consumer perspective. Let's talk about it now from a business and a market perspective, because Apple has a lot of headwinds. They've obviously got concerns about tariffs. They've been able to avoid a lot of these tariffs thanks to the fact that most iPhones made for the international markets are done so in India. But the price point of the Air is higher than the others. We've still got the Pro and the 17 starting at $799 and $999 US dollars. Do you think that this really for Apple is about trying to squeeze more out of consumers and give more to investors to prove that the iPhone is still working? And how far can that go?
Yeah, I mean, all of these are valid points, Aaron. I actually do expect, or I do believe that they are pricing it there to squeeze the consumer to get more profitability for the company. I mean, they've had the choice to price this thing lower and have lower margins for quite some time. I mean, they're significantly more expensive for the components that are in the phone compared to their counterparts. So I think this is all about making sure that they remain as profitable as possible, or else they would be cutting the price significantly. But ultimately, I do think that this, install base, there's a very large install base still on, 13s, 14s, 15s that likely upgrade just because either their phones are cracked and they don't want to deal with the cracked screen, or they have a battery issue. And then, the incentives we get here in North America are out of control. I mean, you basically get a new free phone without doing anything. So I think you're going to see a big upgrade cycle, which will also help build on the service momentum, as I mentioned earlier.
You see, that doesn't excite me, Brad. I mean, my next question was, what makes the iPhone 17 Air different enough to trigger a new upgrade cycle? And the answer you've given me is people who've got cracked phones and people who want a free phone. Is there anything in this announcement, aside from the megahertz refresh rate, or that it's a slightly bigger phone, is there anything, or thinner phone, that jumps out, or is this just another incremental change, do you think?
It's very much an incremental change. I mean, you get a slightly better camera on the iPhone Air, you get a slightly smaller form factor, but with worse battery, but mind you, this is a very much incremental. There's nothing that's a major development that would be rushing people out there to be buying this phone because they need it. I really, this is an upgrade cycle type phone. This isn't a phone that's going to cause Samsung users to switch.
Yeah, and I think you made a really good point there, because one thing that phone companies have been trying to compete on because of customer feedback is battery life. And the Air obviously comes at the expense of battery. It's pretty much the Pro, but thinner with not as much battery. I mean, that doesn't take a rocket scientist or thousands of engineers at Cupertino, surely, to come up with that. Do you think that expanding the premium pricing corridor strengthens their market dominance, aside from obviously the marketing department having to work twice as hard every time there's an announcement to find a new word that hasn't been used for the past 20 years? What do you think it means about Apple's market dominance?
Yeah, I don't think I mean, maybe you get a little bit more of an incremental switch because of the Air. I don't think this lineup causes a switch. I don't think it's incremental enough or exciting enough to get other phone users to switch to Apple based on iPhone 17 lineup. It doesn't, there aren't any features or functions that are a must-have that we don't have somewhere else. But I do think I mean, again, you have an install base that have older iPhones and they haven't had anything exciting for several years. As we've talked about this year after year of not these exciting and very incremental upgrades. And now, after, let's say you have an iPhone 13 or 14, and you've been listening to the 15, 16, and now 17, all incremental, but very slightly. Maybe they get the 17 because again, their battery's dying or something else is wrong. So this is not, again, the lineup is not that exciting. I don't think there's anything that really makes somebody must, upgrade to this.
You got to watch this interview, anyone out there, because we're talking about how it's just not exciting. Now, how resilient is demand for Apple's high-end products in tougher economies? When you've got Jamie Dimon out there warning about a slowdown in the economy, is Apple heading the right direction by having higher prices and hoping for higher margins? Because so much of Apple's story the past 10 years, past decade, has been about creating that cheaper C version product for the Chinese market. This seems to be going the opposite direction, even though the market's saying that things are happening opposite. Is that the reason why Apple's share dropped as soon as the event concluded?
I think it dropped just because it wasn't that interesting of an upgrade. But ultimately, yeah, I mean, the SE models for overseas, I mean, they'll do well. I mean, they've done well in the past, but ultimately right now it's all on the install base. Like, this install base is significant. You will get incremental upgrades based on, the oldness of phones that people own. But ultimately this also drives, I mean, on the service side, every time you see this hardware refresh, that drives services. And, as you get more people building on the Apple services, that's almost entirely margin for the company. So, ultimately, I still think Apple's in a good spot because of their large install base. And I don't think they need to have like a bigger upgrade cycle, or not upgrade. They don't need to have a bigger incremental increase in users because they already have such a large install base. So now it becomes an install base upgrade cycle play. But they generate so much cash that it makes sense still from an investor standpoint to own the stock.
All right, just quickly, where can Apple go next?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see something more interesting or something more exciting on different devices that we haven't heard about. So if they can actually get the AR glasses to something that makes sense, that could be an everyday, I think that's like 3 to 5 years from now at the earliest. But I think that would make the company a bit more interesting. On the iPhone side, I do expect new models next year. I mean, I've said that before. I've always said 2026. I'm sticking to that 26, and I do expect that flip phone next year.
I guess they might be watching to see what happens in the world and their entire product line. After all, Tim Cook is a man who understands the logistics of building a phone better than anyone. We'll talk to you again soon, Brad Gastworth. Appreciate your time.
Perfect. Thanks, Aaron.